What happens when the city that never sleeps suddenly can't pay the bills? Las Vegas, once the glittering oasis of cheap thrills and endless crowds, is now staring down empty hotel rooms, shuttered condos, and foreclosure signs that look more like slot machines stuck on lose. Tourist numbers are plunging, the housing market is cracking, and even strip workers are quietly being laid off. Is Sin City spiraling toward a ghost town future? Stay with me, because what's happening in Vegas right now will shock you, and the biggest reveal comes at the very end. Number 9. Collapsing hotel occupancy. Picture this. It's the 4th of July, traditionally one of the busiest weekends of the year in Vegas. Fireworks, pool parties, jam-packed casinos. But in 2025, the city's occupancy rate fell a staggering 16.8%, dropping to just 66.7% of rooms filled. That's not just a bad holiday weekend. That's a nightmare scenario for a town built on full hotels and endless turnover. For perspective, weekend occupancy on the Strip hadn't dipped below 90% in years. When even America's party capital can't draw a crowd for Independence Day, something is deeply broken. Why does this matter? Because hotel occupancy is the heartbeat of Las Vegas. Every empty room means fewer gamblers in the casino, fewer diners at the buffets, fewer tickets sold for shows. The Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority has long bragged about near-total weekend capacity. Those days are gone. With rates plunging, casino operators are caught in a vicious cycle. Cut staff to save money, which kills service quality, which then drives away even more visitors. We've already seen secret layoffs at big resorts like the Cosmopolitan. Over 200 housekeepers quietly cut. When workers disappear, so does the Vegas experience. And it's not just tourists noticing. A limo driver recently admitted his business is drying up, even as his partner at the casino scrambles for fewer and fewer shifts. This ripple effect spreads across the valley. Less foot traffic on Fremont, fewer cars on the Strip, and local businesses starving for the spending that used to flow like champagne at a comped high roller table. If Vegas can't keep its hotels full, the whole ecosystem cracks. And sadly, hotel occupancy is just the first domino. Because what's happening behind the neon lights goes even deeper, straight into people's homes, mortgages, and the terrifying return of foreclosures. But before we move on, I want to hear from you. Have you been to Vegas recently and noticed the empty hotel floors, slower service, or price hikes? Drop your story in the comments because your experience on the ground helps paint the real picture of what's happening here. Number 8. The foreclosure flood. Imagine driving through a Las Vegas suburb, and instead of for sale signs, you're met with a wall of foreclosure notices. That's the new reality in Nevada, which now leads the entire nation in homes facing default. In just one recent month, more than 2,326 properties in the valley received foreclosure filings. To put that in perspective, Florida, the other foreclosure hotspot, saw similar numbers, but Las Vegas alone is flashing the red warning light of another housing collapse. Why is this happening? Because home ownership in Vegas has become a nearly impossible dream. According to the Review Journal and Daily Mail, a family now needs an income of around $130,000 a year just to afford a typical home here. But the average casino worker, even with dual incomes in the household, falls tens of thousands short. When your job is paying closer to service industry wages, but the mortgage requires a six-figure salary, the math simply doesn't add up. Families are forced into renting, and who benefits? Hedge funds and investment giants swooping in, buying up hundreds or even thousands of homes at a time to rent back to locals. The American dream of owning a piece of Vegas is being replaced by a corporate landlord reality. And here's the kicker. This foreclosure wave isn't just a real estate issue, it's a recession signal. Economists use what's called the SOM rule, which links spikes in unemployment with incoming recessions. With Strip unemployment already climbing above 5.8%, layoffs spreading quietly across resorts, and foreclosures topping the charts, Vegas is looking less like a city in recovery and more like a canary in the coal mine for the entire U.S. housing market. For longtime residents, this feels eerily familiar. In 2008, Las Vegas was ground zero of the housing crash. Entire cul-de-sacs were abandoned, values plunged by 60%, and ghost homes became a haunting symbol of the Great Recession. Today, the warning signs are back. Unsold inventory piling up, over 70% of listings getting little or no buyer action, and families walking away from mortgages they can't afford. The Strip may shine at night, but behind those lights, neighborhoods are darkening with uncertainty. And if you think the foreclosure crisis is bad, wait until you see how this financial strain is crushing the very workforce that keeps Vegas alive. Number 7. Silent layoffs on the Strip. The neon lights might look the same, but behind the curtains, thousands of Vegas workers are vanishing from the payroll. Officially, the unemployment rate in Las Vegas has climbed to 5.8%, far higher than the pre-pandemic years when it hovered in the low 3% range. But here's the chilling truth. The real damage isn't in the headlines, it's in the silent layoffs casinos don't want you to hear about. Take the Cosmopolitan, one of the Strip's most glamorous resorts. Locals whisper about how 200 housekeepers were quietly cut earlier this summer. No press release, no flashy headlines, just hard-working people suddenly scrambling for hours, tips, and basic survival. And if you think this is an isolated case, think again. Vegas is notorious for hiding its layoffs until they can no longer be ignored. From cocktail servers to limo drivers, workers are watching their incomes dry up, while tourists notice longer waits, dirtier rooms, and service that feels like a shadow of old Vegas. This isn't just a labor story, it's an identity crisis. Las Vegas built its reputation on service. The smiling blackjack dealer, the spotless suite cleaned overnight, the cocktail waitress who remembers your drink order. Strip away that labor force, and you strip away the very soul of the city. When a guest pays $400 a night and gets Walmart-level service because resorts are cutting staff, they don't come back. They take their money to Miami, to Mexico, or even to Nashville. The layoffs are also part of a bigger storm. Across the U.S., tech companies shed 95,000 jobs in 2024, and the ripple effects are hitting travel destinations like Vegas. Families with shrinking incomes cancel vacations. Corporate groups cut conferences. Even Canadians, once a reliable lifeline for Vegas tourism, are staying home, with airline passenger numbers down 20 to 30%, depending on the carrier. Fewer visitors mean fewer shifts for casino staff, and the cycle spirals down. So what's the outcome? A city where workers can't rely on stable hours, homeowners can't rely on steady paychecks, and visitors can't rely on the legendary Vegas service. And if jobs are the backbone of Vegas, the cracks are starting to look like fractures. But here's the real question. When both tourism and labor are slipping away, what happens to the housing market already teetering on the edge? The answer is darker than the empty neon streets after midnight. Number 6. The Canadian disappearance. For decades, Canadians were the lifeblood of Las Vegas tourism. From bachelor parties to snowbird escapes, they filled the Strip with laughter, cash, and a steady stream of Maple Leaf credit cards. But in 2025, that pipeline is drying up, and the numbers are brutal. Airline data shows direct flights from Canada to Vegas have plunged, with some carriers seeing drops of 20 to 30% in passenger volume. That's not just fewer tourists, that's millions in lost revenue, because Canadians have historically been among the highest spending international visitors. Why does this matter so much? Simple. Not all tourists are created equal. A weekend drive-in visitor from Southern California might book a discounted room and split a buffet. But Canadians fly in, stay longer, and spend big on shows, dining, and casino floors. Losing them is like cutting off the premium tier of Vegas's customer base. The city may still have bodies walking Fremont Street, but the wallets aren't as full, and casinos feel the pinch where it hurts most, the bottom line. The reasons behind the exodus are complex, Exchange rates have made U.S. travel more expensive for Canadians, with the loonie stuck weak against the dollar. Add in higher airfare, baggage fees, and the nickel-and-dime culture of Vegas, resort fees, paid parking, $20 cocktails, and suddenly the math no longer works for middle-class Canadians. Why spend $2,000 on a Vegas weekend when that same money buys a beach vacation in Mexico with everything included? It's also about perception. Online forums are full of Canadians sharing horror stories of long border delays, strict security checks, and rising costs on the Strip. Some describe feeling unwelcome, noting that the once cheap, carefree Vegas vibe has been replaced by a corporate machine designed to squeeze every penny. That sentiment spreads fast, and when Canadians cancel, it's not just one trip, it's entire bachelor parties, family reunions, or annual snowbird getaways vanishing from the books. The loss is already reshaping the Strip. High-end restaurants see fewer reservations, luxury retailers lose impulse buyers, and even show ticket sales are softening. Vegas can try to backfill with domestic visitors, but the spending gap is impossible to ignore. Canadians once helped keep the economy afloat during slow seasons. Now their absence is another hole in a sinking ship. And if losing Canadians is a gut punch, the next issue is a body blow. Vegas's real estate market, where empty homes and sky-high prices are colliding in a storm that threatens to redefine the city's future. Number 5. Housing on lockdown. Las Vegas once bragged about being one of the fastest-moving real estate markets in the country. Homes sold in days, bidding wars broke out in suburbs, and investors treated the valley like their personal monopoly board. But in 2025, the game is flipped. Right now, 77% of homes on the market are seeing little to no action. That's not a slowdown, it's paralysis. Why? Because the math no longer works. According to recent reports, a household needs to earn $130,000 a year just to comfortably afford a home in Las Vegas. Yet the average casino worker, the backbone of this city, makes nowhere near that. Even in two-income households, most families fall short. When the Strip isn't providing stable jobs or tips, buyers simply can't qualify. The result? Unsold listings piling up, price cuts that barely move the needle, and a sense that the housing dream is slipping further away. And here's the darker twist. The vacuum left by local buyers isn't being filled by families. It's being filled by corporate landlords. Hedge funds and investment groups are sweeping in, buying hundreds or even thousands of homes at a time, then flipping them into rentals. For ordinary residents, that means fewer opportunities to own and more dependence on rent checks sent to Wall Street. It's a shift from live in Vegas to lease in Vegas, and it erodes the sense of stability that once kept neighborhoods thriving. The freeze in sales is also a warning for the wider economy. Real estate has always been a leading indicator here. In 2008, Vegas was ground zero for the housing crash, with prices plummeting 60% and entire subdivisions turning into ghost streets. Today, we're seeing the same early symptoms: oversupply, falling demand, and foreclosures rising fast. Add in higher interest rates, and you've got a city where buying makes less sense than ever. Locals feel trapped. Those who own can't sell without slashing prices, and those who rent face landlords raising rates to cover their own costs. Meanwhile, the luxury new builds, once pitched to Californians fleeing high taxes, sit half-empty, their million-dollar price tags completely out of sync with local wages. Las Vegas was built on the promise of reinvention, but when the housing market seizes up, that promise looks more like a mirage. And if residents can't afford to stay, the question becomes, who is Las Vegas really for? The answer might be even more unsettling when we turn to the next issue. A city built for cars, tourists, and lights now finds its infrastructure crumbling under the weight of decline. Number 4. Infrastructure on the edge. Las Vegas was built to dazzle you with neon, not to move you efficiently from A to B. For years, the city leaned on cheap flights and endless parking garages to keep tourists flowing. But in 2025, the cracks in the foundation are impossible to ignore. Visitors complain of soaring costs just to get around, while locals are left paying the price for an infrastructure that feels stretched thin, outdated, and increasingly hostile to everyday life. First, let's talk transportation. Once upon a time, you could park your car for free at nearly every resort on the Strip, a small perk that helped offset the cost of a trip. Today, paid parking has become the norm, with fees that can hit $25 to $30 per day. For a family road tripping from California, that's an immediate slap in the face before they've even checked in. Add to that $50 rideshare bills from the airport thanks to surge pricing, and suddenly the cheap getaway isn't cheap at all. Then there's the traffic. The Strip itself has become a gridlock nightmare, with ride shares, delivery vans, and construction projects all competing for the same lanes. Tourists report spending nearly as much time in Ubers as at the tables. And while Elon Musk's boring company tunnels were supposed to revolutionize local transit, the system remains limited. Basically a futuristic shuttle between a handful of convention stops, not a real fix for a metro area of 2.9 million people. Locals aren't spared either. Daily commutes are getting longer as suburban sprawl outpaces road expansion. Public transit remains skeletal compared to other major metros, leaving most residents chained to their cars at a time when insurance and gas costs are climbing. The city's population growth once justified big bets on new infrastructure, but with tourism softening and the housing market freezing, funding those upgrades now looks less like an investment and more like a gamble. For visitors, the frustration builds. Imagine spending thousands on airfare, hotel, and resort fees, only to feel nickel and dimed at every turn, from parking to rides to hidden transportation surcharges. For locals, it's worse. They're stuck paying into a system designed more for tourists than residents, with few of the benefits. Infrastructure may not sparkle like a casino chandelier, but it's the backbone of any world-class destination. And right now, Las Vegas is showing its age and its greed. When simply getting around town feels like an overpriced hassle, the allure of Sin City dims that much faster. And if you think the highways and hidden fees are frustrating, wait until we peel back the curtain on something even more corrosive: the policies and management decisions that are eroding trust in Las Vegas from the inside out. Number 3. Policies that break trust. For decades, Las Vegas thrived on a simple promise: you come here, and we'll make you feel rich, even if just for a weekend. But in 2025, that promise has been broken by a labyrinth of taxes, hidden fees, and management decisions that scream corporate greed louder than the slot machines ever could. And the fallout is brutal. Fewer tourists, burned out locals, and investors wondering if Sin City is worth the gamble anymore. Let's start with the most hated culprit: resort fees. These mandatory extras were once around $10 a night. Today, they can top $55 per night on top of your room rate. Guests booking a $150 room suddenly face bills north of $250 after parking, taxes, and fees. For international visitors, this feels like bait and switch. The optics are terrible, and in an age of online reviews and viral TikToks, one bad experience can poison thousands of would-be travelers. Then come the taxes. Nevada has no state income tax, which sounds like paradise for residents, but it makes the government heavily reliant on tourism and hospitality levies. Sales taxes, gaming fees, hotel occupancy taxes, they all pile up, making Vegas one of the most expensive destinations for both guests and operators. For investors, it means margins are squeezed even as visitor counts fall. And for tourists, it means that burger you bought on the Strip tastes a lot less juicy once you see the final bill. Management missteps only compound the problem. Resorts chase quarterly profits by cutting staff, raising fees, and automating service with kiosks and apps. That might save money short-term, but it destroys the human touch that made Vegas special. Policymakers, meanwhile, fail to rein in these practices, leaving the impression that the city is being run more like a shareholder ATM than a global destination. Even infrastructure projects, like the much-hyped monorail extensions and boring company tunnels, feel half-baked, raising questions about whether leadership is more focused on headlines than solutions. And investors are noticing. Hedge funds that once bought up housing by the block are now slowing purchases, spooked by high foreclosure rates and stagnating demand. Convention organizers are weighing cheaper cities like Dallas or Orlando, where they can avoid the nickel and diming. The phrase, "Vegas is overcharging for less," is becoming a common refrain in industry chatter. Trust is the currency Las Vegas can't afford to lose. Yet with every new surcharge, every hidden tax, and every short-sighted policy, the city chips away at the loyalty of the very people who built it, tourists and workers alike. And if policy is cracking the foundation, the next challenge is even more destabilizing: the demographic and social shifts reshaping who actually wants to live and visit Las Vegas in the first place. Number 2. The demographic drift. Las Vegas used to sell itself as the ultimate escape: glittering neon, all-night casinos, and a sense that anything could happen, but demographics and social trends are shifting under the city's feet. And the image of Sin City no longer aligns with the people who live here, or the travelers Vegas depends on. That gap is widening, and it's dangerous. First, look at migration. For years, Vegas boomed as Californians poured across the state line, lured by cheaper homes and no state income tax. But in 2025, that flow has slowed dramatically. With home affordability now requiring incomes of $130,000 a year, middle-class families are priced out. Many who moved here in the 2010s now feel stuck. They can't afford to upgrade. But they also can't sell in a frozen housing market. Meanwhile, others are leaving altogether, seeking stability in states like Texas or Arizona, where the cost of living feels more balanced. The result? A demographic squeeze, with fewer new arrivals and more long-time residents considering an exit. Then there's aging. Vegas was once seen as a playground for the young and reckless, but the city's local population is skewing older. Retirees on fixed incomes are particularly vulnerable to rising housing costs, higher utility bills, and healthcare access issues. They aren't exactly flocking to the Strip for $25 cocktails or $200 show tickets. At the same time, younger generations, millennials and Gen Z, aren't buying the Vegas dream either. Many are saddled with student debt, prefer experiences over gambling, and see Vegas less as a must-go pilgrimage and more as an overpriced relic. Surveys show they'd rather spend on international travel, festivals, or even crypto and alternative investments than drop cash at a blackjack table. Add to that rising concerns about crime and homelessness, which shape how both locals and outsiders perceive the city. Social media feeds are filled with images of encampments near the Strip, aggressive panhandling, and tourists complaining about feeling unsafe at night. Whether fair or not, perception drives behavior, and right now, Vegas's image is taking a beating. All of these demographic and social currents converge on one sobering truth: the Vegas brand is eroding. A city that once thrived on fresh waves of dreamers, gamblers, and thrill-seekers now feels stale to the young, unaffordable to the middle class, and unsustainable for the elderly. The soul of Vegas is caught in limbo, torn between its past identity and an uncertain future. And that brings us to the ultimate question, the deepest wound of all. Because beyond empty rooms, foreclosures, and fleeing tourists, Las Vegas faces a more existential crisis, a struggle for its very identity. Number 1. The identity crisis. Las Vegas has always been a city of reinvention. In the 1950s, it was the mob's playground. In the 1980s, it became a family destination with theme park casinos. In the 2000s, it transformed into a luxury capital, luring high rollers and global tourists. But in 2025, the question hangs heavier than desert heat. What is Las Vegas now? The problem is that the city is trying to be everything at once, and in the process, it's becoming nothing at all. Corporate giants have squeezed out the grit and character that once defined Vegas. Instead of free parking, cheap shrimp cocktails, and comps that made the average visitor feel like a VIP, we now have $55 resort fees, $25 parking charges, and $20 cocktails. The neon spectacle still shines, but behind it, the magic feels manufactured. For many, the soul of Las Vegas has been traded for spreadsheets. This identity crisis is showing up everywhere. To older generations, Vegas no longer feels affordable or welcoming. To millennials and Gen Z, it doesn't feel relevant. Why gamble in a casino when you can invest on your phone or fly to Tulum for a fraction of the price? Even conventions, once a backbone of the local economy, are asking whether Vegas's sky-high costs are worth it when other cities roll out cheaper, friendlier red carpets. Locals feel the crisis too. They see empty homes, rising foreclosures, stagnant wages, and service jobs stripped away by automation or secret layoffs. They hear the promise of opportunity but live the reality of instability. Vegas was supposed to be a place where anyone could take a shot, win big, and maybe build a life. Increasingly, it feels like a place where the odds are stacked against you before you even sit down at the table. And here's the haunting truth. If Vegas loses its identity, it loses its future. The city was never just about gambling or entertainment. It was about escape. It was about making people believe, even for 48 hours, that they were wealthier, luckier, and freer than in real life. That illusion built an empire in the desert. But if tourists no longer feel the magic, if residents no longer feel stability, then the house doesn't win, it crumbles. The free fall we're witnessing isn't just about hotel rooms or home sales. It's about a city at war with itself, glittering on the outside, hollowing out on the inside. The ultimate gamble for Las Vegas isn't whether the next hand pays out. It's whether the city can rediscover who it really is before the lights dim for good.
Las Vegas isn't dying overnight, but the signs, empty rooms, foreclosures, disappearing Canadians, and a broken identity are impossible to ignore. As someone who loves this city, my advice is simple. Vegas needs to stop nickel and diming and start rebuilding trust, or the free fall could become permanent. What do you think? Is Vegas still worth the trip, or has it lost its soul? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if this breakdown opened your eyes, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into America's changing cities.